Hello. Welcome to day 4 of the 31 days of Halloween. 31 scary/spooky stories in 31 days. Before getting to the story of the day, let me ask you a question. Zampire. Do you know what that is? It's a combination of a zombie and vampire. That's the focus of today's and other stories later in the month. So with that question answered, let's get to today's story. Invitations to the Enchanted. At Veridian's ball, Eleanor faces dark secrets and zampires. Can she unmask the truth before dawn? And now, without further ado, here's story number 2. Also, just to be transparent, these 31 stories in 31 days are only possible because of AI, with my human involvement overseeing it.
Chapter 1: Invitations to the Enchanted. Golden sunlight poured through my bedroom window, casting ethereal patterns on the stone floor. I stretched languidly, the sound of distant chatter from the town market reaching my ears. Yet, among the normal morning noises was an unexpected soft thud. Puzzled, I got out of bed and walked over to the window. Lying there, adorned with a wax seal of deep crimson, was a mysteriously elegant envelope. The parchment felt heavy, almost regal in my hand. The front was embossed with my name, Eleanor. As I carefully broke the seal and unfolded the note, the scripted words spoke of an invitation to the most anticipated event of the year, the Masquerade Ball at the Grand Veridian Castle. My heart raced. Such events were usually reserved for the town's elite, not for ordinary women like me. Why would I be invited? The rumors around town had been incessant. Whispers of this year's ball being different, more magnificent, and dare I say, enchanting, filled the air. There were tales of outsiders, people from lands far and away, receiving invitations too. Curiosity bubbled within me, and my earlier drowsiness vanished. What made this year so special? Hours slipped by as I prepared. I brushed my auburn hair until it shone, letting it cascade down my back. My blue eyes, usually sharp with curiosity, were today filled with a blend of excitement and nervousness. My fingers danced over my collection of masks, finally settling on a golden one. It was simple, yet elegant, with delicate filigree patterns that shimmered in the light. It seemed fitting. The sun was beginning to set as I approached Veridian Castle. The enormous structure stood like a sentinel against the night sky, its towers reaching upwards, almost touching the stars. A deep blue hue illuminated its walls, adding to its ethereal beauty. The atmosphere was heady. A vast sea of people swayed in the grand courtyard, adorned in their finest gowns and sharpest suits, their masked faces adding an air of mystery. The gentle hum of violins and cellos filled the air, mingling with the laughter and chatter. I made my way through the crowd, every so often catching a familiar face or a friendly nod. Yet, it was the unfamiliar that intrigued me more tonight. Strangers from far-off lands, speaking in lilting tones, discussing matters of intrigue, and looking every bit as out of place as I felt. The castle's grand doors stood open, welcoming all. As I stepped through, the grandeur of the ballroom took my breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over everything. The marble floor reflected the twinkling lights, making it seem as though I was walking among the stars. The night was young, the music was captivating, and I, Eleanor, was ready to dive into the mysteries this enchanted evening promised. There was a sensation, a tingling at the back of my neck, as if I was being watched. My gaze flitted around the room, searching for the source. And then, across the crowded room, a pair of piercing eyes met mine. The masked stranger lifted a glass in my direction, a silent toast. But before I could react, he disappeared into the throng of dancers. And as the night deepened, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this ball was just the beginning of an unforgettable adventure. Chapter 2: The Ball's Beguiling Beginning. The music was intoxicating. Each note seemed to pull me in, urging my feet to move, my heart to soar. I found myself lost in the rhythm, dancing with partner after partner. Each dance was a swirl of color, laughter, and whispered secrets. But amid the blur of faces, one remained constant: the masked stranger from earlier, Lucian. Every time our paths crossed on the dance floor, there was a magnetic pull. Our steps synchronized effortlessly. His hands, though gloved, felt warm and reassuring on my waist. The world seemed to blur, leaving just the two of us. Yet, for all our closeness, the mask he wore kept his true identity hidden, adding an enigmatic layer to our budding chemistry. "You're quite the dancer," I remarked breathlessly during a waltz. He chuckled, the sound rich and deep.
"And you, Eleanor, are full of surprises."
Our conversation was a dance in itself, moving from playful banter to more profound topics. Despite the mask and the mystery, I felt a genuine connection. As the night wore on, the clock's relentless ticking grew more pronounced. As we approached the witching hour, Lucian's demeanor changed. His grip tightened, and his eyes, visible through the slits of his mask, held a hint of urgency.
"Eleanor,"
he whispered, pulling me closer so that only I could hear.
"tonight isn't what it seems. Trust no one. Not even those you've known for years."
Confused, I tried to question him, but he cut me off.
"When the clock strikes midnight, be ready. There's a game afoot, and you must be on your guard."
Before I could press further, the haunting chime of the clock began to ring out, signaling midnight. As the final toll echoed through the vast ballroom, a heavy clang resounded, causing everyone to turn in surprise. The grand doors had locked shut. A hush fell over the crowd, replaced by a mixture of confusion and rising panic. From the shadows, an amplified voice, cold and detached, boomed through the hall.
"Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending tonight's ball. But now, the real event begins. This is no ordinary masquerade, this is a game of wit and survival. Solve the riddles, find the hidden exit before dawn, or remain in Veridian Castle as zampires forever."
Gasps of horror filled the room. Friends clung to friends, couples to each other, and in that moment of chaos, Lucian pulled me aside, his voice urgent.
"Remember what I told you, Eleanor. Trust no one. Now more than ever."
And with a final, lingering look, he vanished into the crowd, leaving me with more questions than answers, standing on the precipice of a night that promised danger, enigma, and a race against time. Chapter 3: Desperation and Descent. The room was thick with tension, every breath echoing the collective anxiety of the attendees. Whispers fluttered like fragile wings, each carrying speculations, fears, and desperate plans. Remembering Lucian's words, I decided to trust my instincts. I approached a few familiar faces, including Clara, a childhood friend, and Thomas, an old tutor of mine. Together, we formed a group, determined to pool our intellect and solve the riddles. The first clue led us to the castle's library, a room brimming with dusty tomes and ancient scrolls.
"Knowledge is the key, but what you seek is not in me,"
the riddle said. Hours seemed to slip by as we scoured book after book. At one point, Clara stumbled upon a hidden switch behind a grand portrait, revealing a concealed passageway. But danger awaited us. As we treaded cautiously, hidden traps sprung to life. Once, a blade nearly grazed Thomas's arm, and another time, a floor tile gave way, revealing a pit beneath. More terrifying than the traps, however, were the zampires. They lurked in shadows, their haunting eyes glowing faintly. We managed to avoid direct confrontations, using torches to ward them off, but their presence was a constant threat. We eventually decoded the first few clues, each leading us deeper into the castle, closer to its very heart. But as we delved deeper, I couldn't help but wonder about Lucian. Where was he? What role did he play in all this?
The stone walls felt cold against my back as I hid in a secluded alcove, listening to the murmurs of passing groups. Guilt gnawed at my insides. How had I let it come to this? A soft voice whispered from the shadows, chilling me to my core.
Lucian.
She cooed.
You can't hide from our past.
Stepping into the dim light, Lady Isabella, the castle's owner and my former lover, gazed at me with eyes devoid of humanity. She was a zampire, the first of her kind. And I had played a part in her transformation.
We were supposed to rule this castle together, to be eternal.
She hissed.
But you betrayed me, left me for dead. And now, this game is my revenge.
I met her gaze, remorse evident in my eyes.
Isabella, what we had was passionate. But it was destructive. I never wanted this for you.
She laughed, a chilling sound.
Oh, Lucian, still playing the hero. But remember, you're as much a part of this game as they are. Maybe even more.
With a swift motion, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving me to grapple with our shared past and the haunting decisions I had made.
As we navigated the maze-like corridors, I felt a presence behind me. Turning, my heart skipped a beat. It was Lucian, his face etched with conflict.
Eleanor.
He whispered, pulling me aside. And as we stood in that dimly lit corridor, Lucian began to unravel the twisted tale of love, betrayal, and the birth of the Zampires. Chapter 4: Unmasking the Truth. The catacombs beneath Veridian Castle were a chilling contrast to the ballroom above. The air was damp, and the walls felt alive, echoing with whispered secrets of the past. Our torches cast eerie shadows, making the ancient carvings on the walls seem to move. We had been navigating the winding tunnels for what felt like hours when a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Lucian. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived as I noticed the torment in his eyes.
Eleanor.
He began, his voice trembling.
There's more to this game than meets the eye. Lady Isabella doesn't just want to create more zampires. She wants to bind them to her service, to rule with an iron grip for eternity.
My blood ran cold. The stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. But why was Lucian revealing all this to us now?
Guilt weighed heavy on my chest, making it hard to breathe. When I met Isabella years ago, we were entangled in a love that was as passionate as it was dark. I was infatuated, blinded. She spoke of creating an army, of becoming immortal rulers, and in my folly, I agreed. The group's eyes bore into me, a mixture of anger and disbelief. But everything changed when I met you, Eleanor, I confessed, my gaze locked onto hers. Seeing you, the embodiment of life and hope, made me realize the gravity of our intentions. I couldn't go through with it.
I was taken aback. A flurry of emotions threatening to engulf me. But there was no time for that. Dawn was approaching, and we needed to find the exit. With renewed determination, we put our heads together to decipher the final riddle.
In the heart of darkness, where shadows and echoes meet, push past the guardian and taste freedom's sweet.
Clara pointed to a large statue of a guardian, eerily lifelike, situated at the junction of two tunnels racing against time. We inspected the statue, and after some trial and error, Thomas found a mechanism that, when pressed, revealed the hidden exit. However, our moment of triumph was cut short.
From the darkness, Lady Isabella emerged, her form more terrifying than ever. Her eyes, once full of love, now glowed with malice.
You think you can betray me and get away with it, Lucian?
She hissed. Our group braced themselves, but it was Eleanor who stepped forward, a beacon of light against Isabella's darkness.
We won't be your pawns, Isabella,
Eleanor declared, her voice unwavering. Isabella laughed, but there was desperation in her eyes. The confrontation was inevitable, and as dawn's first light began to creep into the catacombs, the final battle for our souls commenced.
Chapter 5, Dawn's Deception. As Lady Isabella approached, every step echoing the doom we all felt, I remembered the strange talisman I had stumbled upon in the castle's library. It was adorned with ancient symbols and pulsed with an odd energy. On a hunch, I had pocketed it, hoping it would come in handy. Drawing the talisman from my pocket, I held it high. Its glow intensified, casting a radiant light that pushed against Isabella's malevolent shadow. Her confident stride faltered, a hiss escaping her lips. The talisman wasn't just repelling her, it was weakening her. Using the momentary advantage, Lucian and I led the charge, forcing Isabella back, while our group made a dash for the exit. We reached the outside just as dawn painted the sky with hues of gold and pink. A collective sigh of relief washed over us, feeling the crisp morning air. We had survived the night, or so we thought. One by one, we began to remove our masks, eager to embrace the new day. However, as I gazed upon the town, a chilling realization set in. The streets were filled with people, but their eyes glowed eerily. The entire town had been turned into zampires.
Panic rose in my throat. The castle, the game, the riddles, it was all a ruse. While we were desperately trying to escape, the real horror had been unfolding outside. The castle wasn't the prison, it was our sanctuary.
From a distance, I watched Eleanor's dawning horror. The pain of betrayal radiated from her, and it was delicious. Oh, Lucian. He thought he could betray me, influence my game, and all would be forgiven. No, my plan had always been grander, more devastating. The castle was but a distraction, a way to occupy the most resourceful minds while I unleashed my zampires on the unsuspecting town. Eleanor and her little group might have survived the night, but the game was far from over. As the new dawn cast its light upon my dominion, I reveled in the knowledge that the real game, the ultimate test of survival, had only just begun. Let the hunt commence.
Leave your thoughts about invitations to the Enchanted below. See you tomorrow for day 5 of the 31 days of Halloween scary/spooky stories.